Hi, I'm Melissa, and this is the Book Break. And today we're going to be talking to Adam Gaffen, a science fiction author who has a really awesome The Cassidy Chronicles. Come on in, Adam.
Hey, how are you, Melissa?
I'm doing great, thank you. So I have been reading your Cassidy Chronicles, and I would love for you to give our viewers a summary.
Oh, wow. It's a 5-volume series. The fifth one has just come out, and it centers around Aiyana and Kendra Cassidy, a married couple. It's about a century from now, and Kendra is the dreamer of the two. She has imagined a world where it's modeled on all the best ideals of Gene Roddenberry's vision, and she wants to make it a reality, and that's what she's been doing in these latter 4 books. The first book, the Cassidy Chronicles itself, is their marriage and what happened at their wedding, which was somebody tried to kill Aiyana.
Yeah. And I think that something that really adds to it for me is audio. So like I love audiobooks. So for those of you out there that are also audio fans, this is an audio, it's in paperback, it's an ebook. And so this is something that anyone will like. I think if they like sci-fi, they'll like these. So one of the other things about this series that I really enjoyed is you've got these really strong women. I'm curious. I should have warned you I was going to ask you this. So writing these strong women characters as a man, how did you do that? Because you did it really well.
Thank you. I'd like to say that it's natural talent, but I'm not going to go there. I've taken a lot of cues from Robert Heinlein, and Heinlein writes some really powerful female characters. I'm thinking especially of Friday Baldwin, and he just does it absolutely naturally. He doesn't try to explain anything. He puts the characters out there, and they are who they are. And so that's what I've done with my characters, especially Kendra. Kendra, as you've gone through the series, you've seen she's gotten more and more center stage because it is her dream that they're pursuing. And she is so much fun to write because she's just she's a straight shooter. She hates waiting. That comes up every now and again. And she gets these ideas, and people look at her and they'll tell her to her face, okay, you're crazy. If you want to do this, you're absolutely insane. And she'll still try to figure out a way to make it happen. And she does. Usually.
Yeah. She does. And something that I noticed was exactly what you just said, where Kendra is who she is and she doesn't apologize for that. And I think, honestly, I feel sometimes all of us can really learn from that, because I don't know about you, I can't speak for anyone else, but sometimes I go into the I'm sorry mode where I apologize for stuff that I don't need to apologize for, but I love that she's that strong character, Kendra. And then her wife, well, in the beginning they're not married yet, but then they get married in book 1. So small spoiler, but not really. Aiyana, but she goes by Cass.
Right.
She is a lovable character too. Like, she's just a sweetheart, but she's a genius rocket scientist. And how did you come up with their different personalities? Like, I love how in depth their personalities are.
When I started writing it, I started with that first scene in the first chapter. I had that almost exactly as it ended up written down. I could see it. And then I had to describe who these people were. And so I started getting into, okay, Cass, all right, she's a genius, a little bit soft-spoken. Part of the reason she's soft-spoken, especially in the first one, is she's taken out of her comfort zone. I mean, she's been doing research for the past 7 years, I think it is, and she was in university before that. So within that universe, she's very businesslike and she's very strong. And so she's taken out of that universe, out of her comfort zone, and she has to adjust. And so that's a lot of what the first book is about. It's Cass learning how to deal with the real world, as it were. And Kendra is coming in with all of this knowledge, and she basically saves, she saves Cass at the beginning, and right through about halfway through halfway through the book, it's still Kendra saving Cass, and then Cass has to figure out, okay, I got to save Kendra now.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing that I really enjoyed with these books is, so a lot of times when you have a sci-fi series, it takes place really, really far in the future, maybe thousands of years in the future. But I actually liked that you weren't that far in the future. I mean, we were only at the beginning of the book, like 150-ish years in the future. So I'm wondering, why did you pick that amount? But I mean, I love it, but I want to know from you.
So I thought it was a reasonable period of time to have advances in technology which would make things seem different, but still be grounded in what we all know today. It can't. The universe itself that the series is set in has to be relatable in order for people, I think, in order for a reader to relate to it, to understand it, without going into all of the details that you'd have to do to explain something which is way out there, 10,000 years from now, because you have to set up the entire universe. You have to build the entire world. This way, you just have to, there are just a little extra details that you have to add in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the way that you separated the countries, for example, so I don't think I'm spoiling it by saying, like, it's not the United States that we know now.
No.
There were different disasters and rebellions. And so just in the US, there are now multiple countries.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
That's actually a remnant of something I started working on, at this point, 30 years ago. I had plotted out a whole breakup of the United States into all these countries, along with reasons why they broke away. And when I started writing the Cassidy Chronicles, it didn't make any sense not to use it. I was like, ooh, this is the perfect environment for all this to happen. I needed to have them, crossing borders without necessarily leaving the continent. I needed to have them facing dangers and have some political tensions going on, which would explain why they can't go straight from here to there. So it made sense to use that.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely made sense. And it kind of made it this for me. So it's not just straight sci-fi. It's also a bit of dystopian as well. So for those that like the dystopian type books, they'll also like this, even if they're not normally, straight sci-fi. But I think that was really fun. And then, okay, I gotta say, so Kendra's love of Star Trek. Oh my gosh, or Star Trek. I mean, I have to tell you, I love Star Trek. Like I literally have, costumes that I've worn to, maybe Comic-Cons, like I love Star Trek. So tell us a little more about that. So especially for our viewers that don't know about what's in the book.
So Kendra, from a very young age, Kendra has been obsessed with the pop culture of the late 20th and early 21st century. And a lot of it, she was young enough when she's watching all of this, that a lot of it has really made an impression on her. Like I said, Gene Roddenberry's vision, his idealism, has really been translated into her and how she wants to make her world to be. And it gives me an opportunity to, as an author, to pay tribute to all the, not all, but a lot of the authors and writers and producers and actors who have created, what I've read and what I've seen growing up and as an adult. So there's a lot of little hat tips and nods and little inside jokes and Easter eggs, to somebody who is a sci-fi fan. It's just, you can practically find one in every page.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I want to mention this thing that goes across all of the books, and that's Ohana. And Kendra's sense of family is so strong that she's like, she'll do anything to save her family, whether it's, just her little family or the family that she considers family of her friends and everything. So what gave you that thought to make that a strong theme? Because that, I loved that.
So Ohana for Kendra is the Ohana is the driving force in the first book. She's protecting Cass. She grew up with her. They were neighbors, back when they were children. And something that you learn in the first book and gets clarified in the third one is Kendra is adopted. She was a foster child and then she was adopted. And so she's always looked for those bonds. She's always looked for a sense of belonging. And by the time of the fifth book, I mean, that sense of belonging has expanded to, well, if you haven't quite read it yet, I won't spoil it, but her sense of belonging, her sense of family, her sense of who she chooses to be with has expanded hugely.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here with us, Adam. And we've showed some banners of where people can find you, and in our credits coming right up, they can see more. So I really encourage you viewers, go check out the Cassidy Chronicles by Adam Gaffen.